Mr. Orten, I want to say, first of all, that I appreciate your apology. I believe it to be sincere. I believed it to be sincere when you apologized during the trial. I do know you, have known you for some time now. I came on the bench in January of 2007. It was later that year that you were indicted on some felony charges, and then the next year you entered your guilty plea in that case. Since that time, unfortunately, I've seen you a number of times. Since that time, you have either been continuously incarcerated or on probation from almost the entirety of the time that I've been on the bench, and I just completed my 10th year. During that time, I've seen you in a number of different circumstances. And if you'll allow me to, I'd like to talk just directly to you for a few minutes because, again, we do have, albeit maybe not the kind of relationship that either of us would have chosen, we do have a long-standing relationship. And you and I know better than anybody in this courtroom, you and I know better than anybody in this world what your path has been through the criminal justice system. And I don't want to, my intention is not to embarrass you by going through it, but I would like to go through it a little bit. You, of course, entered a guilty plea to a couple of felony charges in 2008. You were then indicted in 2008 on additional felony charges for which you entered a guilty plea and then ultimately were sentenced, I believe, to 11 years at that time. Recognizing what so many other people have recognized over the years and continue to recognize, that you have tremendous potential, that you have, as many of your family members have said, a good heart, that you mean well. You'll recall that I initially shock probated you into drug court. That didn't work. We tried, it didn't work. You were on probation, I think, for a period of time, and then you ultimately violated the terms of that probation, and your probation was revoked, in large part due to your drug addiction, your dependency issues. There was a second time in which I, again, granted you a shock probation. That didn't work either. We have had multiple revocation hearings in which you have admitted to violating the terms and conditions of your probation. One of the themes that kind of resonated through a lot of the letters of support on your behalf, and at least implicitly on the arguments that your attorneys are making, are to give you maybe another chance. And I think the reason that I want to go through all that is to simply highlight that you have been given many, many, many chances.
Yes, I have.
And you know that, and I know that. Everybody else may not know that.
They do. They know that I've given hundreds of chances.
I think it's important in the judicial system, particularly when somebody is dealing with dependency issues, to give that person a chance. Mr. Dethridge's old law school professor, who became the dean at the law school, Bob Lawson, says that when we're talking about incarceration, we ought to distinguish between the people that we're mad at and the people that we're afraid of.
Yes, okay.
And the people that we're afraid of need to be incarcerated. The people who are committing crimes that present a danger to themselves or to others. People who are dealing with dependency issues, most of the time, are people that we're mad at. People that aren't necessarily presenting a serious or imminent danger to themselves or others. But I am certain during the many, 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 many times that you were before this court, that I and others unfortunately warned that if you didn't get things together, that you were going to kill yourself or you're going to kill somebody else. And very sadly and very tragically, that prophecy came true, if you will. You didn't kill yourself, obviously, but a jury in Christian County made the determination that you were criminally responsible for the deaths of 2 other people. And at the end of the day, as the Commonwealth points out, that can't be lost. I appreciate very much Mr. Wolf's comments about looking at the entirety of this, and certainly that is part of this process. But there are 2 people who lost their lives as a result of actions that you took and for which the jury found you criminally responsible. Doesn't excuse anything that anybody else does. And I don't know what the status is of these other cases at the present time. I'll accept Mr. Wolf's word that 2 of them don't have next dates. I'm not sure why that's the case. That ultimately is the responsibility of the Commonwealth to prosecute those cases. And I fully expect that those cases will be prosecuted as well. But today's your day in court. And so I have to make a determination about what should be done in your case. The other theme that I'm very, very sensitive to and very compassionate about is the impact that this has on your family. That was a theme that I think was addressed probably by everyone who wrote a letter on your behalf. And I know quite a bit about your family because of our involvement over the years.
Yes, sir.
There's no question that your family will be negatively impacted if you're incarcerated. Just as there is no question that every mother or father who is incarcerated ultimately has some type of a negative impact on that person's family. I can't think of a situation where a mother or father is incarcerated where it wouldn't have a negative impact on the family, even if the mother or father was involved in perpetrating some type of crime against the children. They're just tragic. It's a tragic consequence of what happens in our judicial system when parents are incarcerated. So I don't want you to think that I'm unsympathetic to that. I am. And I do believe that you have tried over the years to be a good father. There's no doubt in my mind that you love your children. There's no doubt in my mind that you want to provide the very best for them. And someday you'll have the opportunity to do that again, but at least today and for the next number of days, that won't be an opportunity that you'll have outside of an incarcerated setting. To grant probation in this case, I believe, would unduly depreciate the seriousness of the offense. Again, two young people have lost their lives. The mother of a child who will no longer have the opportunity to be the mother to that child. A child will grow up without her mother because of what happened on the 4th of July. Another young man who, and Mr. Deathridge and Mr. Wolf made persuasive arguments to look at the victim impact statements, but there are letters from his mother, his grandmother, his aunt, other people who lost a child, a grandchild, at a very young age, the age I think of 23, who will no longer have that person in their lives. There are, as we've talked about many, many times, there are consequences to our choices, there are consequences to our actions, and unfortunately for you, sir, the consequence for your action is for me to impose the sentence of 15 years in your case.